once it's recorded, then once it collates everything, I can just email it to you.
Cool, man. So my first question is, what happened to your neck, dude?
Well, 40 years worth of training happened to my neck, so I don't really
Yeah.
have. So
No, I that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, geez, your neck is like a pit bull. What I
it's
wanted
like,
to ask actually for the first question is, I wanted to kind of tell the story how I got connected to you because I have a training partner, who's 6'6", 400 pounds, just kind of like, we have like a powerlifting team at our gym. But this guy, I was like, man, he should do strongman because it's just not normal to be that big, and you could tell like when you have those big old hands and just
right.
you're enormous, I think it's more suited towards strongman because not everybody could do that. I did some strongman and realized like, okay, I'm not that big of a guy. I'm not going to go very far in it. So I asked Ed Cohen. I said, "Hey Ed, do you know who would you suggest, to take a guy like this, somewhere in strongman?" And he just immediately said you. So I was wondering, how do you know Ed?
Well, it was nice of Ed. He knows a lot of cool people.
What's that?
That was very nice of Ed. He knows a lot of good coaches out there. So, I've
Yeah,
known
he thought of
Eddie.
you like right away. I mean, it was quickly. He was like, Chad's the guy.
I've
So
known
how
Eddie
do you
since
know Ed?
I met Eddie in 1992 at a Gold's Gym in Maryville, Indiana. I was servicing that account, and he was there with Victor Richards doing they were doing a joint seminar. Victor was talking about bodybuilding, Ed was talking about powerlifting. So I met Eddie then, and just I don't know, just he's just a good dude. So we just talked, and then I just got to know him better. And over the years, just I don't know, always picked his brain, trained with him, whatever I could do. I could just when Ed was around, like he just shut up and listen. So he's just a good guy. I had him down here and did a seminar at the gym, and then he was part of the judging crew at the Shaw Classic this year. So, got to spend a whole weekend with him. Ed's just a good dude. He's a lot of fun to be around. So,
Yeah,
but
he's got to be the most humble goat there is.
I've known a lot of really good strength athletes, and most everyone's very humble and helpful. I don't know there's that many people out there that are not. Ed is he goes out of his way to help people. He's kind. He does mess with you a lot. He does makes a lot of jokes, so that's okay. So like when the summer, he's like says a bunch of nice things. Like I walked over and I felt his forehead and I grabbed his arm. I go, man, you got a pulse. You're not hot. There's something wrong with you. He goes, what do you mean? I go, you've never said anything nice to me in 30 fucking years, dude. And you're being nice to us. I just wonder if you're sick or something. He goes, oh, fuck you. I'm like, okay, that's the same old dad I've always found. So, but Ed's just a great guy. He's a wealth of knowledge. I mean, I shoot in videos with my kids all the time. Like, what do you think of this kid? What do you think of that? So he's always very, very helpful in the sense of just giving some quick technique help. And, you know, he's just a good dude. He's just a good dude. He's been around a lot, and he's been around a lot of really good, talented athletes. So Brian Schoonfeld was my old training partner who trained with Ed when he got into powerlifting. So he's done a lot of top level strength athletes. He's been out, helped out Brian Shaw with his deadlift. He's helped several other guys out with their deadlift and stuff. And just, he's just one of those guys in the sport that is always willing to take the time to give back. And I think that's the most important thing, that I've always tried to emulate myself is just give back to the sport and help people. And, if you help people, that's a good thing. Some people are just not very helpful. It's like, and I hate to say it, that's probably why no one remembers who the hell they are, you know? So I just kind of always looked at this sport as like any sports really, because I coach every day. It's like, how do you build people up? How do you edify them, whether it's a kid or an adult? How do you help them to live what's their dream? what's the old saying? A dream broken down into a goal, which is made into a plan, then and only then can become reality. So like you said, Cody's a big guy. Can we create a plan that helps him to get to where he wants to be? If this is what he wants to do, he's got the frame. I always just say, it always comes down to the athlete. So I mean, I'm not terribly big, but I held my own at that level. And you look at guys like Novikov or Kevin Ferries. I mean, Kevin's my height, maybe six. He's like 6'1", maybe 6'1", maybe in boots. About 290, but he holds his own. Novikov is one of the world's strongest men. I mean, if you look at Magnuson was 290. He wasn't that big. Yoko Holo was 6 foot and 120 kilos, and he won two world strongest man titles. So it's not always about the size that definitely helps, but it's about the willingness to learn and grind and leave it all out on the field. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing. Most people, they want it to be easy, and then it's not easy. They don't grind. You know, they go to a contest and it's like it got instantly harder, but it's like you're already there. You've done all the work. Just leave it on the court, leave it on the pitch, leave it on the field, wherever you're at. Just leave it there. How long is the average event in strongman? 60 seconds. You can't go for 60 seconds. If you can't go for 60 seconds, we might have to check some stuff. We'll check your conditioning. You know, So just I think that's where we're at with it. So how did you meet Cody?
Just at the gym, we were just like I said, it's like a powerlifting gym. I would say all the very serious lifters go to this gym just because it has calibrated plates, it has competitive bars, deadlift bars and stuff that you would use in competition. And just it's really really a great gym, man. It'd be cool. Hope maybe someday you could come out and like do a seminar or something because this gym is like amazing. The owner's really awesome guy, but yeah, Cody definitely. I mean, there's a lot of big dudes. There's a lot of guys that are like 6'2", 330 pounds, but Cody really stands out, with being 6'6", 400 pounds, and just has the big hands. He's just a big guy that could move things around. Different kind of strength. Like I think that smaller guys could do really well in powerlifting because you can get a good positioning or good leverage, but you're not everybody could be that good at strongman, right? I mean,
It just comes
there's
down
no
to,
way
I
I
mean,
could compete with Cody. I just know that. Like it's like there's no way.
there's so many different variables that go into strongman, but like having that big frame, if you look at if I say prototypical, if you look at that prototypical strongman now, that 6'6" carriage, high threes, low four, but build. Do they have speed? Do they have power? Do they have some endurance? Can they do? Can they overhead press? Can they deadlift? That 6'6" guy has a little bit. I mean, he's pulling it a little bit farther, but once you develop those attributes, then they're going to be successful because they do have the size. You can't ask a guy who's 5'11" to load a stone like a guy who's 6'6" can. He's just never going
Yeah.
to have that 7 inches is big. That's a big difference. But the smaller guy can be a great stone loader. But at the end of the day, I always say this: a small athlete compared to a big athlete's going to win every time because they're a bigger athlete. I mean, if you look at Brian Shaw or you look at Tom Stoltman, you look at Hooper, and Hooper's not that big. I mean, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's not 6'8", 6'10". Now he's had a hell of a year. He's won 4 of the 5 major shows. He was on the podium on the fourth one. So you're looking at that. I mean, he's got all the attributes, and he's intelligent. And he trains smart, and he has a great coach. So you ask people what's the key, and it's like, I don't know, find a good coach that's going to make you work on your weaknesses. You know, um, and then just take the time. It's really, I think, for most people, it's always just the time. They don't want to take the time to be good. If I'm not good immediately, I just don't want to do it. I'm like, well, strongman's a long game. If you look at Trey, I mean, outside this injury this last weekend, you know, I mean, Trey was on track, but it just takes time. He turned pro in 2017, so it's that 6 years later. Look what he's accomplished. How far can he go? Now, injury is a setback. So he tore his Achilles. We're going to rehab that and fix it. and then move forward from there. But it's just every athlete has their trajectory and plan, and then you can plan it out. It's like I think the biggest thing is people just have to be patient. This is a long game. It really is a long game. If you look at like, I mean, Brian Shaw came in, and I met Brian in 2006 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What, in 2023 he retires from the sport 17 years later that's 17 years. Like, that's a long career, strongman. Most guys get their pro card and they're done. Or they compete a little bit. They don't have longevity. So you look at longevity. This is a sport I think you can have longevity in if you're smart. When you train intelligently and then you program intelligently and you don't do too much. Not like when we first started, there was so many different shows. The only way to get experience was to do shows. So I competed as much as I possibly could. Now, like, people are like, what do you think? I'm like, right now there's just the big shows. Go do the big shows. So if you're an amateur coming up, get to one of the do a show, get to a nationals, compete at the national level, go to the Shaw Classic, go to OSG, go to those type of shows. That's where you're going to start to see, are you cut out for it? Are you that good? When you go up against, like, hey man, I'm 6'6", 400 pounds. You walk in, they're like, you're the smallest guy in the room. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rude awakening. Or, or then you start watching guys like, Jesus Christ, that guy's fast as hell. So it's like one of my kids, Nick Wortham, I actually competed with his dad back in the early 2000s. And his dad calls me up and goes, hey man, would you train my son? So I would love to. The kid's 6'4", 330, great athlete, moves really well. He's got very fast hips. He was just here. He help with Trey's prep when Bobby came down. He's kind of jawing back and forth with Bobby, and Bobby's doing a yoke for ASM. So he's like, well, I'll push you on that. He goes, oh, you think you will? And I'm like, well, he's going to probably kick your ass because he did 1,000-pound yoke 60 feet in 12 seconds. I mean, the dude's a stud, and it's just for him, he's only 24, so it's just a matter of time. I mean, again, he's what, 6'5", 360, but he's working on, everyone's got what they've got to work on. So, I mean, when's Cody's meet? It's got to be like here pretty soon, right?
Like 2 weeks about.
In 2 weeks. Yeah. So we'll start working after get through that meet. What's he gonna squat? I'm just curious. What's he gonna open
Well,
with?
so this is a good thing to talk about because so Cody hasn't really been training very long at all. I think he's been training maybe a year, maybe 2 years max. And one of the things everybody in the gym was like, "What the hell?" Like, because he was talking about these insane numbers like right away. Like he was like, "I'm gonna squat 1,000 pounds and I'm gonna deadlift 1,000," and we were just like, "Is he joking or is he like?" Like these are out of this world numbers, he's talking about, but his progress is just way faster than everybody else, like you're like, whoa, dude, you actually are lifting crazy numbers. I think the most he squatted is like 715 or whatever, but he wants to hit 800 in the squat and 800 in the deadlift. He's never even squatted, over 715 or deadlifted over that. But I mean, he's also the kind of guy where I'm like, he might do that, just because he does stuff like that. He just and
Right.
he rises to the occasion, and he's a tough guy too. He's very tough, so he'll go for it. You know what I mean? Like he'll kill himself to do it. So that I don't know what his numbers are. He could tell you what his numbers are that he picked out for his opener and everything like that. But yeah, like I honestly would not be surprised if he did 800, just because, like I said, he just does ridiculous stuff. You know what I mean? He's kind of ridiculous, and so nobody even knows what to think of him anymore in that sense. Like it's like, well, I'm he probably
Well, I mean,
will
I
squat
think
a
that's good,
thousand
but
pounds.
just laying that foundation. I mean, again, is 1,000-pound squat going to make you a better strongman? Well, sure as hell ain't going to hurt you.
Yeah,
So I mean, I'm a firm believer. Be as brutally strong as possible. You just got to move. Put all that movement in there. Once he's got, how can he move? So that's going to be the biggest thing because I've got a couple of clients that are really, really, really big and incredibly statically powerful, but don't move well, and that's what hurts them. So it's that whole package that You've got to be able to move, you've got to have conditioning, and you've got to be brutally ass strong. And it's like those are three different attributes that you got to kind of bring together. I mean, strong powerlifting, I think you can hide a lot of shit. I mean, you don't have to fucking move because you stand static. You
Yeah.
unrack the bar, you squat, you put it back in the rack. That doesn't require anything. Bench press the same, deadlift the same. Now, it's different when you have to go, now, hey, we're going to squat a car for reps. That's different. Or we're going to do like the barrel load at World's Strongest Man, where the multiple barrels come down. So I'm going to pull from 600 to 840 pounds. And once I get to the end, now I have to pull 840 pounds for reps. That becomes a different beast. And so it's just how you train for that. So I'm excited to get to work with him because, a kid of that magnitude and size, how far can he go? I have no idea. People ask me, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? You're so young in training age. How would I know? Where are you at? Train for 3 to 5 years. I mean, if you've got training for 3 to 5 years, you got a pretty goddamn good idea what you can do. Now look at, I see big 800-pound deadlifters. Then, oh God, we're flipping an 800-pound tire. And they do like 3 flips explosively and then they're dead because they don't have any endurance. So then you have to look at every athlete. What do they need? Because I was like, well, how do you program for a different each athlete? I'm like, well, it's customized to each individual because I don't know what the hell they need till I get to take a look at what they're doing, what they've done, how they move. I mean, I've got people that I would say you don't need to do. Let's just keep working on your strength, but let's get you moving. So let's work on your ability to accelerate or change direction or manage your center of mass as you're moving. That's for most people. I think a lot of people need that more than they need, oh, I've got to get brutally stronger. Dude, you're squatting 700 pounds. You don't need that much more squat in strongman. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a bigger squat because you should, but let's work on how do you move? Well, I've got weak grip. A lot of times big dudes with big ass mitts, can they hold on to stuff? They've got big mitts, but do they have the grip endurance? So I've seen a lot of those athletes. So it's a little, and then you look at the pharmacology of it. I know a lot of guys are very pharmaceutically enhanced. They hold a lot of water, and then their grip suffers because they can't hold on to shit because their hands are too tight. Whether that's growth hormone or whatever, whether performance enhancing drugs they're on, that happens. So it's like, you have to look at some of that stuff. So some people like certain compounds. Again, that's generally not my realm. Um, I think everyone if they're going to use performance enhancing drugs, they need to have a doctor's supervision, um, and just watch your blood work and get that done quarterly. And if you need to do blood dumps, you should probably dump them blood monthly. So if that's the route you're going to go, again, I've trained probably half my athletes are drug free, they're half or taking something. And if they're taking something, I use a company here. It's called Access Rejuvenation. One of my clients owns the business, so I just send all my athletes over there. Get your blood work, have someone monitoring it. That's not my scope. I'm not a medical doctor. Okay? I'm a strength and conditioning specialist. Who happens to know a lot about strongman. So, like when it comes to that realm, if that's the route you want to go, I'm going to be smart enough to say, you know what, I know enough to know that I'm not your guy. So I'm going to put you with someone else who can definitely help that. And again, I don't, it's kind of a judgment. I'd say it's always a judgment free zone. I don't care what someone does. I competed drug free in the open strongman for, well, I started taking HRT about 10 years ago, so my whole open class was with no drugs. I did powerlifting, no drugs. That was my choice. That allowed me to build a hell of a foundation, very thick, strong tendons, and probably has made my longevity a lot longer than a lot of other people that came up about the same time that did it the other way. And again, hey, I never made world's strongest man. Do I regret that? Part of me does. The other part's like, I'm going to do it my way, and I feel good about that. And I think what's that allowed me to do is be in the game a lot longer, meet a lot more people, help a lot more people. Now, I mean, HRT, it's, if I can look, I'm 55 years old. I got low test. No shit. I mean, most of the country does, so you take a medication, preparation to treat that. So for me, it's 200 milligrams a test. It's really not that much anything when you're compared to what some guys are taking. But it's like, all my shit works and my health parameters are there. That's all I care about is being able to be healthy. Now for the longest time I was opposed to it because I was I'm gonna do it without, I'm gonna do it without, I'll do it without. I got a divorce, 45 levels were down, kind of felt like ass, you know, this is the problem, this is what we should do. Okay, let's take care of it. So I just haven't really looked back since then. But I think for a lot of kids, they just get a doctor's supervision. If you're gonna do this, do it right. Get looked at. Have someone watching your back. That knows more about you do. You're not. I mean, they go to they're endocrinologists for a reason. They got a lot of school behind them. Just because you Googled some shit and this is what some jackass on the internet says to do, doesn't mean you should do it, or doesn't mean it's the right way. The other thing is, I think a lot of people take way too much shit when they don't need to. I mean, I don't care whether it's training, nutrition, supplementation. The minimal effective dose is where you should start always. Use the least amount you have to. So if I'm training, it's the least amount of stimulus that I have to. If it's cardio, it's the least amount of training that's I have to. If it's conditioning, if it's speed development, how much do I really need to do? So I think that's where, as coaches, when it comes to training, or on the other side, if you're say the athlete who wants PEDs, push them over to someone who knows, and let someone else. I mean, that's why I people are like, well, do you have a coach? I'm like, yeah, I've got a coach. Clint Darden's my coach. I pay Clint to write my program. Why? So it's one less thing I don't have to think about. I've got 250 athletes to think about. I've got a business to run, several businesses to run. It's like, this is the last thing I want to think about. Like a couple of my coaches, I wrote their program. Hey man, we want to do this for the next 6 weeks. So I wrote the program like today. They're like, Coach, I fucking hate you, man. This is so hard. I'm hating this. I'm like, are you really hating it, or do you actually love it? I go, well, I actually love it, but it sucks when I'm doing it because you're making me do all the stuff I suck at. I said, yeah, that's what a good coach does. Make you do the stuff you suck at so you get better at it. The shit you're good at, you're already good at. But I've had so many athletes over the years, like, my grip sucks. So it's time to do farmer's walks. So they leave when it's time to do farmer's walks. That's not how you're going to make your grip any better. Dive in and get your work in. So I think it's just finding that, what makes every athlete click, getting everything in the right direction, whether it's training, nutrition. I think too many people put so much emphasis on drugs when they're not looking at their nutrition, they're not looking at their sleep, they're not looking at their hydration. So, hey, coach, what kind of drug should I go on? I was like, well, I don't know how much you sleep. Well, I sleep 5 hours a day. Okay, how much you eating? Well, I eat whatever I want. I'm on a dirty bulk. What the fuck does a dirty bulk mean? You know, I've had people say that. It's like, dude, you're 40% body fat. You don't need to be on a dirty bulk. You're fucking fat. Okay, just deal with it. Well, it'd be better if we took some body fat off. Now your receptor sites will actually be able to utilize the testosterone that's already in your body. Putting more in there is not going to make it better. Also you look at insulin resistance. I mean, you're eating shitty carbohydrates. I mean, yeah, I ate a box of fucking Oreos. I'm like, okay, well, that's not performance food. That's shit. It's garbage. So how much meat are you eating? How many vegetables are you eating? What are you eating? Once we clean that up, let's look at that big picture. I mean, I think everyone still wants to. I need to go on drugs. You don't need to go on drugs. You eat like shit, you sleep like shit, and you're not hydrated, and you train like a pussy. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff we can work with there. So when you look at that, how do you do it? Like, so you just kind of come up with a plan. I think what's funny is a lot of people when they start my plan, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, like the warm up kicks my ass. I'm like, yeah, because you're not in shape. You're deconditioned. So if a 15-minute active dynamic warm up really kicks your ass, that should just tell you that you're not in good shape. Then you go into we do a lot of readiness. So what's readiness? Just priming those muscles to be ready to fire properly when it's time to train. So getting everything. Well, I think the beauty of being older is I've learned a lot more. Like, I see a lot of coaches, younger coaches. Actually, Ken McClellan and Mike Loman have a book out. It's about math. It's written by masters athletes for masters athletes. But I find it amusing because there's like people will come to me and say, yeah, my coach has me doing this, 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 and this. I'm like, how old's your coach? He's 27. Well, he's fucking 27. You're 50. What the hell does a 27-year-old know about being 50? He knows nothing. Find a coach that is in your demographic. Now, I've lived through my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, and now I'm midway through my 50s. I've got a better handle on that shit as a coach. Now, I also have tons more education hands on. I mean, I've got, I've trained tens of thousands of athletes, so you tend to learn more. Now, I'm not saying young coaches are bad. I'm not at all. There's a plethora of really great coaches out there. Um, I mean, the Hadge kids, those guys are pretty darn good coaches. Mills, I mean, Rob Kearney is a phenomenal coach. I mean, there's just so many great coaches out there. I said, but the vantage point of being older is I've lived through it. So I think that's where I can look at it. And then also, this is my profession. I don't do anything else. I'm not, this is what I've done for 30 years. I have multiple degrees, more certifications you can shake a stick at, but I look at that. That's just something that I'm doing to make me a better coach. And then really listen to feedback from the athletes. How do I then make you better? And then we kind of, it's a collaborative approach. I mean, I think like there's like in a sales stand, there's transactional sales and there's consultative sales. I think there's transactional coaching and consultative coaching. Transactional coaching is like, Scotty, here's your program, do it. Consultative is like, hey man, how'd that work? How'd you like that movement? But that would work. Then we kind of whittle it down to find out what works best for you. So if I'm not in person, if I'm in person, it's very easy to. If you're online, which there's a lot of coaches that do shit online, and like everything I do is about consulting with you, find out what works, create the program, and then refine the program as we go to. And because we're in this together, I'm your coach, you're my athlete, but what's a relationship? And we have to take that time to get a better understanding of each other and what's the end goal. You know, and there's times that what. I love Trey, and Trey was here for like 3 weeks training for the Rogue. It's like, and he gets really fiery sometimes, and it's okay. Like he fired back at me a couple times, and it's like, all right. And I'm sitting there looking like, well, I can't beat his ass, and I can't outrun him anymore. Fuck. What do I do now? Just gonna listen and like let him cool off. But and again, Trey's just a great kid. He's so humble and so nice. Kevin's the same way. I've got a lot of cool athletes. It's like, they're young and fiery. Nick hit a big, he hit a 400-pound axle. And afterwards, we're so jacked up. And like, he likes to chest bump me. Well, he's 6'5" and 360 pounds. So I'm like, oh shit, we're going to chest bump now. So I threw everything I had into his chest bump to not get knocked on my ass. And then he's high fiving everyone around, and him and Trey are hugging it out. It's like, you know, I kind of laugh, but it's like that's the fun stuff with your athletes that you just get to experience. He just won. I mean, he just pulled an 805 deadlift, which was a 40-pound PR over his previous best deadlift. I got to see this. I think that's what's cool for me. My clients send me stuff like Christina Bro just pulled 480. Now she shows the video online of her just pulling it. She doesn't show the whole video of her passing out afterwards. But I got that one. But it's like they share that with you. And I think it's just that journey that you're doing it with someone, and you know, I, I'm not, again, I say, I didn't win anything. When Trey won the Shaw Classic, I didn't win anything. I happened to be his coach. He's the one that did all the work, and here's the thing, at the same time, when your athletes lose, is that your fault? Well, I think that's the whole thing. It's a you share that responsibility with the athlete. So was it their fault? Was it your fault? Well, okay. Trey got hurt. Was that my fault? His fault? The equipment's fault? It's just something that happens. So now we just got to move forward. I think that's the thing. The beauty is just having that relationship and communicating, and keep it very consultative. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent.
No, that was great, man. I mean, that's how I want this to go. Uh, I'm doing. We were talking about conjugate and stuff, and we're going to talk about your style of coaching for a strongman. And like I'm doing conjugate right now for powerlifting, and for me it's about 4 hours a week is all I'm training really. And so I'm wondering how much more of a commitment is it like for strongman? Like how much more time do you have to train because you're
you
training
know,
all these different movements and
like, and that's what makes it difficult. The strength training is probably very similar. It's just then you've got to look at practice. You're practicing events. I mean, like I'm a football player. Okay, we use a conjugate system with a lot of our football kids. Okay, but now they go practice for 8, 10 hours a week. They don't need to train. You're not spending the. your training is adjunct to what you're doing. I mean, like if I'm a power lifter and I'm training conjugate, well, fuck, that's my sport. I got to squat, bench, and deadlift. So whatever I'm doing is going to improve my squat, bench, and deadlift. It's just not rocket science. But then you're looking at and then you look at how it's broken down into your dynamic effort days, your max effort days. Do you need more repetitions? If you're, I mean, like, are you a skinny powerlifter? Do you need to put some hypertrophy on? So do we need more reps in there? So I think the beauty of, and again, how I understand conjugate, I won't say West Side because only West Side does West Side. Conjugate does conjugate. And that's my opinion. Again, I've been to West Side. I've talked numerous times, talked to Louis, which is a huge influence. Like my influence was, Dr. Ken Leistner, Arthur Jones, Mike Mincer. I trained more of a high intensity when I first started out. It's like after a while, it just didn't work. It's like, what's working? Then I got into powerlifting, but I was training abbreviated, so more like a Stuart McRobert or Ellington Darden, who's another PhD guy. These high intensity kind of guys, or limited volume. Brooks Cubic, if you remember dinosaur training. All those are great things. Then I met Louis and I was like, okay, what's this dynamic effort? And I started training dynamic effort and it made me faster for football. So I'm like, fuck, this is great. I need to be faster. You're a football player to be fast. So I just kind of, then it kind of bled over into strongman. And then how do you use dynamic effort within strongman to facilitate speed of the bar? So I just kind of adapted to that to a 4-day, and we do a 4-day split. I've done a 3-day split with an event day. It just, you kind of play with it. Right now, so then I do my normal training, then I just pick an event and work that event that day. So like if it's Tuesday for me is a dynamic lower body day. So I'll hit my dynamic lower body. So I'll do so that rotates. So I'll rotate week to week. So let's say week 1, I'm doing box squats. But because strongman is so more deadlift oriented, I might lead off with the deadlift. But I've always been a squatter. I always squatted. I love squatting. So I'll always squat. So I'll squat first, then deadlift second. Okay. That will be Tuesday. Then I'll do some type of, so those will be dynamic effort. Then I'll do some type of other filler movements. What do I need to work on? Do I need more upper back strength? Do I need, more hamstring strength? Do I need more quad strength? So I'll just filter those in. And again, you're just rotating those through, making progress. The numbers go up, the numbers go up. That's why I look at it. When I look at speed, if you can see it, this is a rep 1. It's just velocity based training. So basically, all I've done is taken the velocity based training, and then I just look at that's my dynamic effort. So now when I look at accelerative strength, I need to stay within a certain parameter. So I'm using 50% of my weight with some accommodating resistance. Is the speed there? Now I can look at it with my naked eye. Well, that looked a little slower. That looked a little faster. When velocity based training came around, just slap the rep 1 on there and see it. Now there's Vitruve, which is that's Kabuki, Chris Duffins using that company. There's Jim Aware, which is Dr. Mann, Travis Mash. They're all great tools. I don't care which one you use. Just I use one just to see what's the velocity of the bar. So when I look at when you miss a big lift, what is it? The fucking bar slows down. So in your dynamic effort, you're putting maximal intent into the bar. So a lot of it's intentionality. What's the intention? I want to shove my feet through the floor as fast as I possibly fucking can, because then that's how it's going to go when I go to a big squat. That's what I'm going to do. But now, why do you have to do the heavy stuff? Is because you got to be used to the big ass load on your back.
Yeah.
One of my powerlifters was squatting this morning. She's like, I just hit a triple. I just don't know how that max triple is going to equate over into my max single. I go, the problem is, Como, it's not. Only max single work drifts over into max single work. Now, I think that foundation, how you get there, how you work there, I think that's important. But it's just the ability to grind against a fucking heavy ass weight that wants to bury your ass. And that's where you're using that maximum effort. Again, this is my opinion. Now within strongman, because it's reps, sometimes it's reps. So that might be my max effort might be taking 90% of my 1RM and doing that for maximum repetitions in 60 seconds, because that's what the contest is going to require. So you kind of have to blend the sport of strongman is a little bit different. So then, like, maybe I've got a yoke, like on my next show, I've got a yoke farmer's walk medley. Could I do some sub maximal work at like 60%, just work on speed? Yeah, I could. That would be totally acceptable. I might do that as portion of the warm up before I do one heavy set. Right now, it's like, how much work do I really need? I've been doing strongman for 30 years. Do I need to do a bunch of fucking yoke runs and farmers walks? Not really. I'm really worried more about the other stuff, so I'm focusing on that. So it really comes down to every athlete, and that's where your training is different. Because like we have Saturday, tomorrow we'll have like 14 guys here, guys and gals, all in the same basic program under the same split, but all doing totally different shit. So there'll be 14 people doing max effort lower tomorrow. 14 people could be doing 14 different movements. Maybe one guy's doing a safety squat bar. Maybe one guy's doing a camber bar. Maybe one guy's doing a buffalo bar. Maybe someone's over doing the kabuki squat transformer bar on a back squat mode on down in level 4, which makes the bar weight even heavier. It just depends on where they're at. But then you're all pushing for that. And when it says maximum effort, it is maximum effort. So like when you're finished, like I finished that last set, there's nothing left in the tank to go heavier. Now maybe we'll do a back off set. Maybe we'll do some more some type of other work. Like I love a belt squat, so I can squat and then I go belt squat to get my reps. But if I squat heavy, let's say I'm gonna do try and think this last workout. I did my dynamic effort with a mat. And actually, I'm kind of dicking around with stuff right now. So I'm playing with my accelerative strength and absolute strength. So accelerative strength first and absolute strength second. So I was doing some safety squat bar, zombie front squats with chain. So the load on the bar is 175, and the load of the chain is 250. So it deloads the bottom and it overloads the top. So I've kind of got this janky knee, so I'm trying to work around that. But then I would go right over and pull a max effort trap bar deadlift because my next contest has a trap bar deadlift. But I was using a ton of bands. So I had a band I got a Bartos platform, which if you don't have one, definitely get one. Mike makes great equipment. It's probably one of the best things I've ever bought as far as equipment wise. So shameless plug for Mike and Bartos. He makes a hell of a platform. So I have a Monster Mini on the first peg, um, a mini on the first peg up to the third peg. So I've got to really engage my lats. So I have to pull the bar back in. And at the very top, I have a mini band on the third peg. So it really overloads at the top where I tend to not have a lot of power. So I hit a pretty good PR. So my accelerative strength was really doing well. So I was hitting over 0.75 meters per second, for a double. And then I would go and then go right to the absolute strength. So I want to say I ended up pulling, I had 12 sets of 2 on squat, and I did 12 singles on the deadlift, hitting a PR. So that was just, I'm playing with the template. I'm always experimenting. When I look at my body, my athletes' bodies, those are experiments, and we try stuff. And does it work? This seems to be working. So it's something I'll probably keep in the mixture. I think tomorrow I'm going to try to do some the speed deadlifts and then go right into and work on that as my dynamic. And then I'm going to try to do a heavier back squat. I'm just experimenting. I'm a junkie for technology and bars, and like I just bought another bar. I don't know why, but like you come in my gym, I've got like three. I mean, I've got a elite FTS safety squat bar. I've got a power safety squat bar. I've got a Kabuki transform bar. And I think I'm about ready to buy a Mars bar, and I just bought a front squat bar. So I'm like, I'm just, I like those extra tools as a variant. So then you look at your variants within what you're doing. So like my dynamic effort, maybe I'll go back to a straight bar. Maybe I'll do some isometric pulls. It constantly changing. But I think that's the thing. People have to understand what this variance mean. CrossFit is constantly varied, high intensity, functional movement to increase work capacity over broad time and modal domains. I mean, that's the definition of CrossFit. But like, is it constantly varied? I don't. When I look at that, it's not varied. It's random. They do a lot of random shit. I do varied shit. So if we're in a deadlift, you're always going to deadlift it. It might be 6 different variants. So within that variant, as long as you're improving in the variant, your deadlift's going up. So that's kind of, I look at the variant is the movement pattern. So a hinge is a movement pattern, a squat is a movement pattern. Are we getting better? As long as you're getting better, That's all that matters. Now, in strongman, it's a little bit different because it's so varied. So I want to hit it from as many different angles as possible to make you as strong as possible, and A, make you less likely to get hurt, and B, perform better. Powerlifting is a little easier, in my opinion, and a little easier to program for because you don't have to have as many variants. Now, again, true conjugate, if you look at what did Westside do, what does conjugate do? Is that are you changing that max effort each week? Is that every 3 weeks? What's the age of the athlete? How long have they been training? I can handle a little more variance than most people. What I've come to realize, I think I like 3 week waves, even with my variance, because that gives me a week to break in, a week to push it, a week to really just cram it down there and hit a PR, and then switch the damn movement so I don't get burnout, so I don't get hurt. So I think that's the beauty of conjugate, in my opinion, in my mind, is there's so much variance that it's not infinite, but it's vast, and you can continue to have fun. I mean, because I've seen people come in, it's like, all they do is fucking squat, bench, and deadlift. I mean, I've been training for 40 plus years. It's fucking boring, man. I want to do something spicy today. I want to do something different. So could you do that? I think a lot of it comes down to training age. If you're young in training age, yeah, you just need more work. If your squat sucks, like a lot of my guys will look like, man, coach, safety bar, straight bar, buffalo bar, whatever you're doing, your squats all look exactly the same as the other squats. Yeah, I've been squatting for 40 plus years, twice a week. Got a lot of volume in there. Got a lot of, so it should look the same. If it doesn't look the same, why doesn't it look the same? So maybe that's where we have to look at technique. So when you look at a strongman, here's the training, but now I've got to cross that over into doing stones or sandbags. Well, those require there's strength there. Like you said, Cody's just big. He's got that farm boy strength. He just fucking destroys shit. Great. Now let's just hone his technique. Because at the end of the day, technique's always going to trump strength. Okay, it's like, it's funny because one of my coaches was talking about something about all this bullshit with fighting. Well, Brian Shaw's going in MMA, he's going to kill everyone. And I'm like, I love Brian as much as the next guy. He's one of my dear friends, and he's going into MMA. But to sit here and say he could go into the UFC and win a fucking UFC bout today, you are high as fuck because he will get destroyed. Why? But he's so big. If he lands a lucky shot, I said, yeah, say your sentence again. If he lands a lucky shot.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens when Frank Mir just, single legs, throws him on the ground, pulls him in a rear naked choke, and no matter how fucking strong Brian is, he's not getting out of that. So it's like that's where I come back to technique. So in strongman, who wins? Honestly, the person that's the best trained is probably going to win. Now you take technique. That's something that's very important. So that's something you're always practicing technique. So like you look at the press. Who wins the press? Is it the best guy who has a push press, a push jerk? When you look at the pros, well, let's look at the Shaw Classic. You had three guys hit a 440 log for a double. That was Hooper, Trey, and Bobby. They all have distinctly different pressing styles. Does that make one better than the other? No. Now, if you had a really good Olympic lifter who could split jerk a log, which I've seen some really good Olympic lifters do that, you know, that's where I'm looking. Dan Hipkiss he coaches the Stoltman boys, and learning how to do that just takes time. Someone going to take 3 years to learn to do a split jerk right. That's the problem. So I think when you look at that, like, and who's coaching, I'm a decent Olympic coach. Would I be the one that I would want to teach you? No, I'd hire someone else that's better at it. So I think that's the beauty. Like if it was me, I'd be switching some people out. Trey he's a power presser. He gets a little leg drive and he can just press it. That's Trey's technique. He's been doing that for a long time. Am I going to really address that now? Probably not. If I've got a new kid, like if I could take Cody and teach him to jerk, holy shit, now what's happening? That's some cool stuff. But again, until we get under the hood and look at it, I don't know what the hell to do with him. Let's get him through this meet and then we kind of go from there.
I didn't expect that you had that background. That's actually that's how I've always trained, is like Arthur Jones. That I really like the Nautilus bulletins, and that's what I've always done. And then just recently though, I learned, I kind of like, I learned about the repetition method in conjugate, and I was like, that's basically what I do right there. I was like, I just do max reps every set. And and then, for sport, I realized like, oh, max effort and the dynamic work, that's just for competitive sports. Arthur Jones was just talking about the human body and developing the body, but he wasn't talking about sports or
Right.
competing,
He was
right?
looking at pure bodybuilding. Again,
Yeah.
Arthur Jones was pure bodybuilding. Ellington Darden was pure bodybuilding, and Darden has a PhD. You look at Stuart McRobert, pure bodybuilding. You look at I mean, now I will say Dr. Ken Leistner was a football player first and foremost, and he really adhered to the high intensity principles. So it was really high intensity, you know, 8, 10, 12 sets to failure, and you're done. You stimulate, don't annihilate. Now I kind of so I started out that way, but then when I started looking at I got in our collegiate program. So it was 4 days a week and it was like different stuff. I was like, I don't know if I'm buying this shit. And then as I graduated, then one of my friends got me into powerlifting. I graduated, took a job. I was working in a supplement company and I stopped by his gym. He's like, dude, he saw me squatting. He says, you ever thought about doing powerlifting? I go, what's that? That was 92. So in 93, I did my first powerlifting meet. I knew nothing. I mean, I
Wow.
absolutely knew nothing. I had always squatted. I'd never pulled a deadlift other than a stiff legged deadlift. Now I was after doing legs. So I'd squat, leg curl, and stiff legged deadlift. So in my first meet, I came out, I squatted 683. I think I benched like 372, and then I pulled 585 in the first contest I ever done. Now I did another contest 6 weeks later, squatted 730, benched four, and then what the hell did I pull there? Then I pulled like 633. And then I did another meet and what I squat? I squatted and I cut down on 220. So I squatted seven, benched like 396 and pulled like 661. That was my first year of powerlifting. Then I went into football and just you had to play football. And then I played the next year. I did powerlifting and I enjoyed it. And it was just something to do in the off season. But then it's like, we started seeing strongman. It's like, dude, totally want to do that. And I remember watching strongman when I was a kid and acting like I thought I was Bill Kazmaier. Coke used to come in eight packs and there was glass bottles. So our house was like a half mile from a convenience store. So I would walk home carrying 2 8 packs of Coke, man. So I had one in my hands and I had one in my armpits. I'd squeeze them together and I have to walk them all the way home. So I was like, that's because I watched it on World's Strongest Man. So I was like, someday I'm going to do World's Strongest Man. And that's kind of how it got started. And then as there was no shows in 95, I put on our first show. Actually, it's 90, wasn't even 95, it was 94. 94 was our first 90, no shit, 93. Fuck, I can't remember. We did it. It was a
Yeah, it was 93. I was just listening to you talk with
bench press deadlift meet with farmer's walk. So we called it strong. So we started doing that, and I did that through like I talked to Randy Strauss and Ironmind. There were no shows, so we just started doing those. And then in '98, there was the American Federation of Strength Athletes was having an American Championship in Las Vegas, October 1st, which was we were told was the qualifier for World's Strongest Man. That was a stretch because it wasn't. They'd already invited the athletes, but we all went out there and did it, and that's how I kind of got started. And I've been doing conjugate for about 2 years, and basically I kind of looked at how do you take conjugate and blend it with high intensity to get a program that works for natural athletes that focuses on recovery. So at the time, I would do like a full body workout. So there would be like one main emphasis of the day. So maybe Monday was a dynamic squat day, a dynamic press day, and then I'd pull heavy. So then Tuesday would be off for recovery. Wednesday would come in. Now then it would be, you know, a dynamic squat day and a dynamic dead day, but there was a max effort press day. And then Friday I would flip it around. And Saturday I would do some events. So I was always trying to change it, manipulate it. Now I'm pretty much standard. I've got a dynamic lower and a max effort lower, and I've got a dynamic upper and a max effort upper. And then I just blend some events in there. Like yesterday, I did bag toss and log press. Um, Tuesday, I did my my accelerative squats into my absolute strength deadlift. And again, I'm just kind of playing with shit. I you know, after 40 years, I still have fun with it. Just it's like I'm like my body's like a human experiment, it's a lab, you know, and my clients are like labs. So can we try this and see if it works? You know, if it works, keep it. If it doesn't work, we get rid of it. There's been a lot of shit I've gotten rid of over the years. So, you know, I think that's the beauty of conjugate is you can kind of blend it. You know, listening to Darden, listening to Jones. I mean, there's only one recovery system. So how much recovery are you taking out? You know, and there's times that I'll plan in time off to aid recovery. Now, I think if I was talking the average person, I think the average person needs to train 2 to 3 days a week. Okay, that's it. 2 to 3 days, brutally hard. Get the fuck out of the gym. You know, now if you're training for sport, like we're training for a sport, that's where that dynamic effort comes in. Because I look at it's you're working on accelerated strength, but you're also working on technique. You know, now if you're a powerlifter, because some and again, it's changed a lot. You hear 8 doubles, 10 doubles, 12 doubles, 5 sets of 5. The volume on Premlin's chart, the volume is about the same. I just look at can you keep the bar moving? And I would rather do 12 doubles than 5 sets of 5 because that's 12 singles I'm doing, not 5 singles. Because in powerlifting, you only get one shot at it, you know. Now, strongman may be a little bit different. You know, what's the contest require? Like my next contest has a trap bar deadlift for reps. You know, I pulled the contest weight with asinine about a band tension. Then I went down and pulled a set of reps with like 80%. That's going to give me the reps when it counts, you know. I make up my strength endurance and other movements. So I'm just training my hamstrings or I'm training my quads or whatever I'm training. The other thing is like I'm mitigating how much damage am I putting on my knees? Because I got a bum right knee. So like if I do too much, then I don't walk real good for the next couple of days. It makes it harder to press, makes it harder to work. So I've got to do just the right amount of work to be able to recover from. Now, other athletes that are younger don't have that to consider. They really need to consider that. But at the same point, every time you train, it eats into your recovery. How much time does it take to recover? You know, some people, I'm on drugs. Well, drugs are not magic. You can drive your
Yeah.
CNS in the ground even on a gram of fucking test. But you know, what do you need to do? So it's like finding out what works. You know, and honestly, I laugh because like I mean, I have training journals. Now I like using training journals. We use Train Heroics, so we record everything digitally on that. I still do a lot of my clients with books because I like to put notes. Easier to write it, and I'm trying to type it on my phone or on a tablet while I'm training people. So I still kind of go some old school stuff, but then, you know, it's just been finding what works and how much time does it take to recover. Uh, Last week I hit a deadlift, and then I had our pre-season summit. So I was going to be in Boston. I was traveling. Don't know what the sleep's going to be like, food's going to be like. So I'm not going to try to train. I just deloaded that week, came back on Monday and hit a 60-pound PR on my deadlift. I'm like, what the fuck? I wasn't recovered, you know. So it's just been finding that fine line. I just can't really. I'm not recovered. So finishing this training cycle off for this next show is like I'm going to build in a little bit longer recovery, or I'm going to reduce my volume. You know, so I've just got to reduce it. I'm at the tail end of a training cycle. I'm a little beat up. You know, now I know I get 8+ hours of sleep a day. I know how much I'm eating. I get plenty of water. You know, it's like I'm managing all that stuff, but it's like I'm also, you know, at 55, I don't recover like I used to. So I think you just have to learn that stuff along the way.
So you actually know Randall Strawson? He's the one that wrote Super Squats, right? That was one of
Yeah,
the best programs I ever did in my life,
yeah.
man. That's the biggest
I
growth I ever got.
it's funny. Like when I first started, like I had Iron Mind magazine, and then he had Milo. So I just one day I was like, I'm flipping through. I'm like, man, I got to find a contest. So there was a contest in there. I called him up, and I called the office, and then Randy got on the phone with me. He's like, yeah. And then that's how we started our first show because there weren't any shows
Wow.
by us. And so we've got the long, I mean, the Central USA is the longest running strongman show in the United States. We ran it, fuck, I mean, 20, well, next year will be 23 times in 30 years. I took a hiatus when I got divorced, so I didn't throw the show for 7 years. But no one's it's the longest running show. So we ran from 94 to 2014, and then we resurrected it back in 22 and 23. So this was our 22nd version of that show. So and that was a lot was Randy was kind of integral to that. So it's funny because a lot of my guys like that they'll see my axle or a buffalo bar or my heavy duty trap bar, all the shit that's iron, it's iron mind. Like, yeah, that bar's older than you are. So I've got a Oki deadlift bar that I bought in 95. I bought a heavy duty trap bar that's been rebuilt 3 times since 95. I've got a buffalo bar, I've got an axle. I mean, those are all they're vintage pieces of equipment, but I mean they're 28 years old right now, and they've seen I mean a lot of people put their hands on those things. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, Randy was a integral part in my starting in this sport. And I really like Randy. Haven't really kept in contact in like the last 15 years though. It's kind of sad. Those kind of go away. But like Stuart McRobert, who writes Hard Gainer, if you've ever read Hard Gainer,
Oh
um,
yeah.
I'm part of that. I'm on their page, their Hard Gainer page, talking about abbreviated training. I talk about abbreviated training all the time for most of our clients. That's all they need. So it's kind of a blend between 5x5 and high intensity. You know, most people don't need much more than that. I think that's a good place to start. Now, once you get more advanced, if you got 10, 15, 20 years on you, that's where conjugate really, I think, kind of comes into play. But I think even if you talk to if you look at Wendler's 531, it's just a simplified version. Let's just get strong. And then once you're to a certain point, now you're going to have to do something different. So, but I think too many people want to start off, you got 2 years of training in your belt. Conjugate's probably not where I'm going to start you. Let's just do some basic linear progression shit. Let's just get stronger. Just every week, put a little weight on the bar. It's just not rocket science, but then we kind of blend in some speed work and then max effort work, and you can start dabbling in it. But what's the training age of the athlete? So
Yeah, I was listening to Matt Winning talk about it, and it's interesting how the conjugate is very like made for longevity. So, so just like you're saying, like after you got some years in, it's a good way to keep going
I'm going to
too,
be
right?
honest with you. I think a lot of my longevity has to do with the variance. Is constantly varying my shit. Not to steal that too much from CrossFit because it's not a really. I mean, if you look at conjugate is the ultimate varied system.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I think when it just kind of clicked in my head, and the conversations I had with Louis were many. Um, I mean, when he died, that was a real loss in our community because that guy he just took the time. And again, I try to look at like getting on the phone to you. Anybody wants to call and talks like, you know what? All these cool people took the time to talk to me. God, why would I would be such a jerk if I just didn't do the same thing? So it's like if people talk about strength training, dude, I'll sit here and talk to you about strength training. It's like I want to help people. I think that's the beauty of I think those that I mean, what Dave Tate, live, learn, pass on. I look at that, I was like, these are such great people that have given so much back to the sport and to the training community. I mean, that's why you want to talk to them. I mean, I met Chris Duffin again, I read his book. I'm a fan. I didn't really fanboy. I mean, I guess maybe I fanboyed out a little bit, but so I see him at the Arnold's, and I'm like, I just went up and and I said, thank you, man. I just want to say thanks for all you've done for our industry and the sport and equipment and shoes. And he's kind of looking at me like, this guy's kind of fucking weird. And he goes, "You're serious, aren't you?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm dead serious, man. I'm so impressed by what he did, and he's so intelligent. And I mean, the guy's like a fucking genius. I mean, my
Yeah.
college roommate had an IQ over 150, and this guy could put rockets on the moon and shit. I mean, he taught himself Greek and Hebrew in 6 months so he could read the Bible in its original version.
Wow.
And that's when I talk to Duff, and it's like, this guy is not, he's like in a different plane of existence when it comes to intelligence. He really is. I mean, he's just that goddamn intelligence. So it's like, when you see guys like that, or you talk to Louis, or you talk to Randy, or you talk to Ed Cohn, it's like you absorb everything you can, and but be grateful. And then when you have the opportunity to help someone else, man, just help them. I mean, help them. I always tell my staff, like doing the right thing's never wrong. Just always help people, and whether it's money or whether it's fame or whatever you're reaching for, you're gonna have plenty of it when you're a good person. So just be a kind. Man, I love Hoopers. Lift heavy, be kind. That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm down with that. So it's like, just always take the time to give back. Always take the time to give thanks. Always give the time to say, you know what, everything I've learned from other people. I mean, I'm going to sit and say, did I create anything really new? No, I just beg. I'm like Bruce Lee. Like I'll steal from anybody. I'm not proud. I see something good, I steal it. I mean, I'm a master coach for the Parisi Speed School franchise. And I think the beauty of being a master coach is I get to go coach all these young coaches and they see stuff different than I do. So they say something about a drill. I'm like, holy smokes, we can make a difference in that drill. So they see that stuff different. I mean, Dr. John Russell with PPSC. I mean, I've bought a lot of education from him, and I really, really enjoy what John does, and he puts out great information. You know, I don't really care for Joel Seedman's antics on social media, but I've watched a lot of his stuff. Here's the crazy thing. I bought his book. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, I bought his goddamn book because there might be something good in there. It's like, if I'm going to spend 100, I'll spend money on anything when it comes to education. But maybe if I read his whole book and I get one thing, it was worth it. I mean, I had Ed Cohn down here. I laugh. You're going to laugh this. So Ed Cohn came down. We fly him down, put him in a hotel, feed him, all that stuff, pay him a couple grand to do a seminar. He said, Sternum Up was the one cue I'd never heard. And it clicked in my head on the squat and the deadlift, the bench press, sternum up. And I've used it ever since. And it was like, I paid $2,000 to hear sternum up. And it was a fucking incredible $2,000 investment. So you look at that and it's like, when you've got time, when you get to talk to people like that, you just ask the questions. It's funny. It's funny. We had a speaker in for Parisi in like 2016, Dan Paff. He's a world renowned sprint coach. You'll laugh at this. So I have a rental car. So I was like, hey, will you drive him around? I'm like, yeah. So we're driving around. I'm like, just asking, man, I'm just asking question after question after question. And he goes, do you ever shut up? And I go, what? He goes, do you ever just shut up? And I go, what do you mean? He goes, you just keep asking. It's like a rapid fire question. I'm like, coach, I mean, I go, I'm not a young coach. I guess I'm 50, but I'm like, I'm in the coach with this world renowned coach. I'm going to ask him a question again. Dude, totally fine. Just for God's sakes, buy me a beer and a cheeseburger and I'll talk to you all you want. So we went and we went fucking ate, man. And I just kept asking questions. But it's like, when you look at that, that's what I think as a young coach or even as an old coach, I just want to listen. I want to listen and learn and absorb me. Just came back, like I said, came back from the Parisi Summit, and Chris talked about the foot and barefoot and velocity based training. And the crazy thing is, I know a lot about both subjects, and I think most people are looking at me like, is he speaking English? I'm catching about 50% of it, but it made me want to learn more. You know, I think that's the thing. Like, I want to constantly chase excellence. You know, I'd say perfection, but none of us will ever catch perfection. But like, I want to just make my game better. I want to be a better coach. I want to be a better coach, whether it's as programming or inspiration, or, I had one of my clients, she had gotten rid of her coach because she didn't feel like she believed in him or he believed in her. And then, like, she goes, I think you truly believe that I can do anything. I go, I do. My job is to create the plan. You got to do all the sweating, man. I don't have to do shit on that. You got to do all the work. And now she's close to pulling a 500-pound deadlift as a 40-plus-year-old woman. Okay. A lot of that's if I can get you to believe in yourself, it's amazing how far you'll go. So I think that's the thing. I think we always got to constantly just, as Coach Eric Mitchell, one of my master coach associates, iron sharpens iron. So every time I'm talking to a coach, like, I want to learn something and make myself a better coach. And I think that's the end of the day. We always want to just be better. So If the opportunity, like, Ed refers you to me and I get to coach another athlete, I want to be able to do the best job for him as I can. And that comes from 35 plus years of being in the trenches and working with a myriad of different athletes, from the lowest of the low, a 4-year old kid to a 94-year-old woman, and professional athletes in between, and multiple sports, not strongman. And actual, I hate to say this, someone will kill me. In real sports like baseball and basketball and football, those are real sports that they get paid millions of dollars. Now, I'm loving the fact that the Rogue was $145,000 payday. I think that's incredible because, like, 20 years ago, we were duking it out in parking lots for 10 grand, split between everybody. Now these guys are actually able to make a living. I think it's awesome, and I think we want to just keep pushing the sport forward and keep it as mainstream as we can, but keep it entertaining for the average person, and then make it accessible for the average person. So we get those lighter weight classes because, I mean, there's some cool shit going on. Like the American Strongest Man today, you got that 64-kilo ladies and you got 80-kilo guys. It's like, everyone's got a seat at the table, and there's a place for everyone. And like I've told a lot of people, there's hell of a lot more smaller people in the world than there are these gigantic people that are doing open strongman. So cater to them. They spend money. I look at, like, all coaching or equipment or supplements. I mean, if you're doing any of that stuff, it's like, who's your demographic? It's not the pro strongman.
Yeah.
It's not the Brian Shaws of the world. It's the guys who want to be Brian Shaw, but never will be. So that's that market as well. So.
Yeah. How does it feel going from, doing strongman competitions in church parking lots where nobody even knew about anything, and it's just like the most
To like,
impoverished sport, to now? I think the strongman, the media has done such a good job. Like, they're creating this media content, especially I feel like after Eddie Hall did that documentary, it seems like they've really
I think
invested in the media.
the guys that did Eddie's did a really good job. You'll laugh if you ever go back and look at that. You'll see my ugly mug there a few times because they actually shot that in 2014 at the UK's Strongest Man, which was also Masters World's Strongest Man at the time. So I've known that. I've known him. I actually met Eddie in 2012 at my first Masters Worlds. But I think they've done a good job. They've done a good job of that. The Netflix stuff. Just YouTube. You'll get a good kick. I remember, I met Brian in 2006, but like I had him in my gym in 2014 for the 20th Central USA. That was after he's won 2 titles. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this shit. Like, there's this stuff called YouTube. I'm going to do like a YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing all this shit on social media. And I'm like, God damn, that's just fucking dumb. Who the hell's going to sit in their office watching shit on a computer all the time? Brian, I just don't think that's going to work. I think that's just not. I don't think that's going to work. Well, a decade later, who's making millions of dollars? Who's not? So, he was visionary. Again, he was very visionary, and I think those guys that can really make good social media content, which Brian doesn't. People just don't know Brian. He's one of those guys that's like, he's got a vision and he thinks it through and he lays it down and he makes a plan and he just fucking executes the shit out of it. I mean, that's why he's got 4 titles. That's why he won the Shaw Classic this summer. That's why he's got all these companies, because he executes. And I think that's what makes him very special. Um, you know, do I think a lot of people who do are influencers on Instagram or social media? I think most of them suck, to be honest. But they're able to make money. So I don't begrudge them making money. I'm just old and not savvy, and like, I've had some. Why don't you do this? Like, I don't fucking want to. I coach every day. I'd rather
Yeah.
have hands on an athlete than sitting there making content. Now, maybe that changes over time, but I think it's a great time to be, because 20 years ago we always used to have to get together to learn shit. You went and did contests to learn shit. Now you can just pull it up on YouTube, or we used to have groups that we all got together. When you had like 8, 9, 10 pros together, that weekend workout was a goddamn contest. So we did that twice a month and did a contest. Man, it was like you competed 36 times in a year. You gained a lot of experience. You know, it's not quite like that anymore. That's like if you saw those videos when Trey was down here and Bobby came down and all the guys from St. Louis were driving over. And I mean, we had so many guys drive from 3 states away just to come train with these guys. And what were they doing? They're there for the coaching. They're there for the learning experience. They're there for um, that fellowship. There's nothing like the fellowship of just getting after it together. You know, then we go eat, and we're over at the Chinese buffet, just mogging down food, or at the Hawaiian barbecue. But you're just having good times, and that's the shit you're gonna remember. The contests will come and go, the titles will fade, the money will go away, but it's those relationships that you build along the way. My best friends are from this sport. I met my fiance in this sport. Um, it's really delivered a lot to me. That's why I want to continue to give back to it.
How much of a part of your life is and everything is your faith? Because I know you've talked about being a Christian guy. Is that like a really big part of your life? And
It's a huge I mean, it's always been a big part of my life. Sometimes my language doesn't reflect that. That's again, I say this. I think your workplace is your marketplace ministry. What I do is my ministry. I try to pray before every contest. I bring the guys together. You can see pictures all over. Like I'll bring all the guys together and pray before the contest. You know, am I think we're all ambassadors of our faith. I have a strong faith. I do believe in God. I believe there's a personal relationship. Am I dogmatic? I've read the Bible front to back. I listen to it every year. Every year I re-listen to it because I got it on Audible, so I listen to it. Um, I think it is important that you understand there's something bigger than what we do. Whether that's a God that you serve or whether that's a community you serve. I think that human beings are built to serve and serve others. When we forget that that's an integral portion of who we are and what we do. So when I look at my community as a strongman, like if I'm serving as a judge or as a coach or as a mentor or as an athlete, you're serving there, and that becomes, if you get an opportunity, you can witness to them. Um, People will pull me aside and talk to me about my faith. It's like I have no problem talking about it, but I'm not going to beat you over the head with it. And I'm not going to shove it down your throat. I laugh. I mean, Clint Darden actually put a post up about for my birthday and just told a story from when early on that he and I were going on the field. And like I could see him praying. Hey man, let's pray together. So the whole contest stopped while we prayed together. It was kind of surreal, but it
wow.
was like one of those things that's like, it became one that, and then I think of every contest, like I just pulled the guys together. Okay, guys, we need to pray before the contest starts. I'm like, what? No, I've always done it. I'm not going to stop now. It's like, if you don't believe, that's fine. You don't have to just bow your head. You don't have to say it with me. You don't have to believe what I'm saying, but this is what I believe, and this is what I'm going to do. It's like the thing is, like I say, I'm raw. God made me this way, and maybe I'm the guy that connects with the guy that's a little raw too. Because when I went to church, honestly, I got saved at a power team event, and those guys were lifting stuff and doing crazy stuff, and I got saved, and that was 1996. You know, at a power team at my church. And I've been going to church there for every year, but I hadn't been saved yet. It was just this was just it was the right time.
Are those guys, those strongman guys that
So
would go
maybe I
around?
say something that makes someone think about it. Maybe I don't. What's that?
Is that the power team? Is that those strongman guys that would go around and like share the
Yeah,
gospel or whatever?
yeah. John Jacobs was their leader. Again, like dislike. I mean, I look back at now, were they fake? Yeah, they did a lot of fake stuff, but they delivered a message. And you know what? It didn't matter how I got the message. I got the message. Were they great people? No, they're not. Were they great examples of Christians? No, they're not. You know, well, there's plenty of people evangelists on TV. They're not good. They're not good examples of Christians. But what's a good Christian? I mean, I don't know what a good Christian is. All I know is this, man, dude. I'm majorly fucked up. I'm a sinner, and you know what? Without the grace of God, I can't make it to heaven. And I know that. And it's like, you know what? My pastor's like, Chad, man, you can't use that colorful language. I'm like, man, Pastor Bill, I got to be me. If I'm gonna leave that guy over there, that's way worse than I am. He sees me as real. Okay. And look, man, I'm fallible. I'm messed up. I've got There's a lot of natural in this guy still. There's days that I want to just grab. I mean, like forgiveness, man. I don't know, man. How about throat punching somebody? Can you do that? Well, that's not real Christian like. Okay, I probably shouldn't throat punch you then. Okay, maybe I need a little extra grace right now, not throat punch you, because that's what my natural being wants to do. Because you're a jackass and you deserve it. Okay, then I'm sitting there like, well, if I got what I deserve, woo, might not be real happy with that. So sometimes it's that you just got to look at it, and you know, it's like I talk to the kids. I mean, I train kids for a living. So it's about life lessons. It's about teaching them stuff that's going to last forever. And our four pillars are respect, coachability, work ethic, and effort. Kids maintain that, great things are going to happen. If you can throw faith into anything that you're doing, it's pretty awesome. You know, um, at that same time, I think just people have to see you as real. That's why I'm not, can I sit here and quote the Bible? I probably could. Am I going to smack you over the head with it? Nope. Nope. Because there's too many people that do that. I mean, my ex-wife being one, my kids don't want to go to church because they think their mom's fake. She's a fake Christian. I'm like, well, you know, maybe, so I just try. Here's my example. It's like, well, I'd rather be your example. At least you're real. You're not saying here, don't do this, and then you turn around and do it yourself. Sorry, kid, you shouldn't be having premarital sex, but I know I'm divorced, but I'm having sex with my boyfriend. I'm not going to blow sunshine and tell them that's the, hey, look, you're going to cross that bridge on your own. Should you, shouldn't you do? Well, the bottom line is this: you're going to answer for it, not me. So am I going to sit here and say have premarital sex? Probably not. I'd rather you wait. I'd rather you make sure it's the right person. But in reality, did we all do that? You know, were we all out? Oh, was I out drinking beer when I was 18 years old because we lived in the sticks and there was nothing to do? Yeah. Did you do dumb shit? Yeah, we all do. But as you age, it's kind of amazing. Wisdom comes with age. You're not wise at 18 because you're an idiot. And most boys don't become non-idiots so well in over 25. So where's your faith at? Yeah, I've got faith. Can I clean that up? Can I play that card? Yeah. I just tend to just be, this is who I am, man. God made me this way for a reason, because maybe I'm that guy rough around the edges that might get the other guy that's rough around the edges to like, hey, maybe there's something there. Maybe I need to let's have a talk. Let's have a talk. So if that comes down to it, we sit down and pray and you accept Christ as your savior, cool. If it gets you to start thinking about it, cool. Tell me I'm full of shit, okay, we can still talk. I can still be your friend. I've got plenty of atheist friends that we just have really weird conversations. So that's what makes them, and that's what's fun about life. I mean, just I can disagree with you, and we can agree to disagree. We don't have to dislike each other. I think that's the quandary we're at in this country right now. Is there's too many people. I'm a conservative. You're a progressive. We can't be friends. Yes, we can. I'm an atheist and you're a Christian. We can't be friends. You're a Muslim and I'm a Christian. We can't be friends. I don't think that's the truth. I mean, I think the truth is this. I mean, God in his all knowing, all loving, all powerful being that he is, there's infinite amount of grace there that he can bestow, and we can do the same thing.
Yeah, man. Well, one of my favorite like stories or whatever, or people, was Paul Anderson, because Paul Anderson was like, I have this book. I think Randall Strawson wrote it, actually. It's called The Mightiest Minister, Paul
Yeah.
Anderson. And there's all these legends about him, basically, of all these weights that he lifted that, they didn't really have strongman competitions or powerlifting back then, but he won an Olympic gold medal, right? Do
Yeah.
you, do you, do you got thoughts on Paul Anderson at all? I'm sure
You
you
know
do.
what? Actually, my old train partner Brian Neese had his own ministry called Mighty Ministry. So when we first met each other, so I went around, did a lot of talks with Brian, and basically all mine was I just share my experience. I was sexually molested as a child. So most kids are. I mean, it's a huge statistic. So I would just go talk about, God's healing power for that and how it affected my life. And, it's like being angry, but like a lot of Brian's thing was based off of Paul Anderson. And Brian had been down and met Paul Anderson and talked to Paul Anderson. And Brian was a strong man. I mean, we used to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Like neither one of us really do it anymore because we've got so many other. I mean, kids are older, and then but it's like if you can share your testimony on what God has done for you. I mean, I've got two adopted sons that were miracles from God. I've got, I can sit here and tell you story after story after story that what God has done for me. And you can believe it or you can not believe it. I don't really care. I know in my heart what happened. But then you look at what he did. I mean, was it God? I mean, he was an incredibly gifted athlete. And if he was alive today, would he be he would still be a great athlete. He would still be a great minister. Because he had great faith. You know, Brian Shaw has faith. You know, Trey Mitchell has faith. There's a lot of guys that have faith that are Christians and they're good people and they want to help. And I think that's at the end of the day, I think helping people is the number one thing we should all be doing. And I always laugh because, like, you know, the Ten Commandments, are they, should they be etched in our hearts? If let's just get past the first five. I don't know. Let's like honor thy mother and thy father. Is that a bad thing? If we all did that, would the world be a better place? I don't know. We don't kill each other. We don't steal. We don't lie. We don't covet our neighbor's crap. If we just did all that, and then we shouldn't, what did Jesus say? I mean, love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. What if we just walked around loving people like we loved ourselves and we were nice? How much better would the world be? Otherwise, it's a freaking giant cesspool of shit. But like, what if we just in our own little microcosms of the world just, hey, dude, how's it going? You having a good day? You know, put a smile on someone's face, open a door, a random act of kindness. I love to just, when I get coffee, man. So you saw drink my coffee. So I go to the grind to get a coffee every day. Well, you know what? If someone pulls up behind me, hey, while we're sitting there, what they order? Well, they order this. Here, I'll pay for it. And I just drive the fucking way. I don't need to thank you. There's a random act of kindness. You know, open a door for someone. Be polite to someone. You don't, and again, we train kids every day. I don't know what their day was like. I don't know what they had for breakfast. I don't know how their day at school was. I remember what it was like to be a teenage kid, and kids are not real nice. So when they get here, you high five them. I'm a huge fan of hugs. Try to hug all my kids. And some people think, oh, you should be hugging kids. I'm like, what? You know what? How many hugs a kid get a day? Their teacher give them one, their mom give them one, their dad give them one. They come here and they know it's a safe place, and Coach Chad gives them a hug. They're safe, and you know what? They're loved. And if you make people feel safe and loved, it's a lot easier to talk to them about other stuff. That's important. So we get to edify kids every day by talking life into them about what's really truly important. And for us, that's really simple: respect, coachability, work ethic, and effort. I think we hammer those home because if kids control those, they'll be better athletes, they'll be better students, they'll be better people, they'll be better employees and better employers. And I think if we can consistently do that here, and my staff does that, the kids we're coming in contact are going to be better. Now, if you do that with adults, it's even better there. Most of the time, adults have kind of learned their stuff, but like kids are different. They're still very malleable. So I think that's where you can kind of capitalize on that per se.
That's I keep hearing you say the word respect, and you'll think this is cool, man. Especially too, you had that roommate that learned Hebrew or whatever. That's super crazy. But I had a buddy. He asked me to marry him, to do the service, and so I had to like get a speech or whatever for his wedding, and I married my buddy, and
right.
And so I did some studying though, on marriage. I knew the part about the husband. The Bible says for husbands to love their wives, and it says what love is in First Corinthians.
Right.
So I shared that, but I had to do some research on the wife. What does the wife do? Because I hadn't researched that before, and all it says really is that wives are to respect their husbands, and I looked for a definition in the Bible because I was like, well, it says what love is in Corinthians. So where does it say what respect is? And I couldn't, there is no definition in the Bible for respect. So I was like, dang, I got to figure out what that means exactly. And the Hebrew definition for the word respect actually means weight or heaviness, which I thought was super cool. It's the opposite of light. So, like for you being a strong man, it's like weight. You know, the more weight on the bar, the more you have to respect that weight. You know, because it's heavy, and that's literally what respect means. And we're supposed to respect God. You know, just the wife is supposed to respect the husband, like we're supposed to respect God. And I thought that was so cool. Like if you take the word as something very heavy, like, hey, this is like a heavy weight that will crush you. And it's a, you know, our what we're called to be, like you're saying, it's like Jesus is the only one that could actually carry that weight. You know, he was
Right.
the only one that could actually not cuss or
Right.
be a scumbag or whatever, you know.
You know, I will say this, and I did a missions trip in Mexico about 20 years ago. So we went down, and I took Spanish in high school and college, so I could understand a lot. But we did a missions trip, and we were building a church. We were building a school off this church, and then they had a. It was down like the Baja, so they had like a car show. So they had us out to a car show, and like I was going to do some feats of strength. So when I got there, we got an old car, we gutted it out, we put handles on it so I could flip it, and handles on the back so I could walk it in like a wheelbarrow. And then I had like a we took off an axle of a car which had tires on it. So how you got the big pumpkin there. So I had to clean it and press it. So it was very awkward. It was 200 pounds. So it wasn't heavy. It was just I tried not to knock my teeth out every time I cleaned it. But then I'd like I don't know, tear cards in half and fold frying pans and like, so we go there and it's like 4 days and I did a show like 4 times a day for 4 days. And we're down to the last show.
Wow.
It's the biggest show. It's like, you've got to carry the car out. You're going to flip the car. And I'm just sitting there, man. I just remember right now. It's like, I'm just sitting there and like, I got nothing left. There's absolutely nothing left of me physically. And I was like, the whole team comes over and they pray over me. It was the easiest time I did it the whole weekend. I walked that car out, I flipped it over, I popped the pumpkin, I tore a deck of cards in half, and I folded up a frying pan. I was like, because I'm like, I can't do it. God, I don't have anything left. So it was one of those, it was like, have you felt the Holy Spirit? And like, I really just felt flooded with it at the time. And it's happened half a dozen times in my life. And I'm like, that was just one of those. I was like, wow, that's the power of prayer. And do you believe? And I believed. And it's like, personally, I don't think God really cares about your strongman career. He doesn't care whether you win or lose, but you give him credit, and you know why every time I walk out, it's like, I just the silent prayer, or God just hold me together, give me the strength to finish this event, and don't let me tear anything off. And that's pretty good most of the time. There's sometimes you tear some stuff off, but it's just it is what it is. But you know, God gave me these talents and abilities, and I want to use them as best I can for as long as I can to do as much good as I can. If that happens, great. If I fall down and along the way, it's just get back up one more time. And at the end of the day, Father Time wins. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna make him pay for it. But along the way, it's like are there cool stuff I can learn that I can learn, or the things that I can teach. And that's what I really want to do is just keep pressing forward and keep helping other people. I'm 55. How many more years can I do this? I don't know. I'd like to think I'm in the middle. I'm halfway. So I got another 55 years. That'd be kind of cool. Is that the case? I don't know. I don't know how long I've got. It'll end when it's supposed to end. So how long you do strongman until it's no longer fun or God tells me to stop. And there's times, trust me, there's times like God, why am I still doing this? And it's always you're not done. It's that simple. You're just not done yet, dude. All right, I'll do another year, and I'll go to another contest. And it's like you go and you help people. And that's really what it's about. I mean, it's really if I can cook it down to what I live for. It's like, and it's funny on my phone, you can't see it, but it's like, well, maybe you can. I'll hold it up there. So it just says, if not you, then who? Making a difference one child at a time. So I look at that, and that's kind of that's the big red 1. So it's the from the Army. from World War II. And if it's not me, then who's going to do it? So we look at that with every kid. If it's not you, then who? If it's not you to make a difference, who's going to make a difference? So I think if we look at the end of the day, what's your life accumulate to? Did you make a difference? It's not about money. I could make money. I could do a lot of different stuff and make a lot more money. I don't care about the money. It's just, did I make an impact? And I mean, it's just one of those things that's what you look at. And I think that's what's the most important for whoever we're doing or whatever we choose to do for a vocation. Is it making a difference in the world? Are you making the world a better place? And I think when you do that, the money will take care of itself. All the other crap takes care of itself.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That all that what you just said is super awesome. It made me think about that story that you shared. Actually, I don't know if you know that story about Paul Anderson when he went to the Olympics. He got the flu. He like the Olympics is only once every 4 years, right? And he goes to the Olympics and he got super sick and he had the flu
Right.
and he said he couldn't lift the weight. Like, and I think he missed it like twice or something, like the clean and jerk. And then he said he just prayed, like you just said. He said he prayed and he said, God, like, I can't do it. He's like, I can't do it. And he said, but if you just give me the strength to do it, then I'll just make my life a ministry then for you, I'll glorify you through this gold medal. And he said, boom, he had the power, you know what I mean? He had the strength
Right.
then and he lifted the weight. And apparently he was a lot stronger than how he performed, but just under those circumstances, that was his story. And I thought that
Well,
was
getting
really
sick and
cool.
traveling, and that's just, I mean, it's just having the faith. So I don't know. He was a very extraordinary human being. So there's fortunately along the line, I've met a lot of them. So I mean, if do you remember Bud Jeffries?
Oh, yeah.
Bud was a good friend, and I met him in Georgetown College at a talk. Learned a lot from him. He came to the gym a few times. We had a lot of conversations. He was another one that was like, just a good, just a good dude. Now he was probably a lot better dude. He didn't use nearly the colorful words that I do, but we've had a lot of conversations. But it's like you just got to be who you are. I just say this is who I am. Love me, hate me, dislike me. I don't really care. I'm gonna sleep fine tonight. God made me the way that I am, and this is who I am, and I'm not changing. I might learn a few things along the way, but this is kind of rough and raw, and that's who I am. So I don't know. Where do you, are, do you Scotty? Do you have any other questions of like about training? That I can that I can answer. I kind of feel like we went all over the place.
Yeah, we did, man. It just went the way that it went, and
But again, what do people want to hear? A lot of people like. I think a lot of people like the real stuff. So
yeah. Well, I mean, I would just say anything about how you do your training and your coaching um, that you didn't say. Is there stuff that you didn't say yet, like in terms of how you structure it, or I mean, you did kind of explain it really well. Is how about this question? Do you still use high intensity training principles like for like accessory work?
oh yeah, I still do accessory work. I mean, a lot of times I build that in, and I call it filler work. So I'll put filler work inside the workout. So I'm just doing a lot of movement. So I'm not wasting time. So I look at like when you cluster movements together, like say, hey, I'm deadlifting. What else can I do? Well, I do a lot of core work in there. So I'll do like a Pallof press, a Pallof walkout press, a Pallof oscillation press, a hollow hold, a physio ball hold, a Bosu ball hold, just trying to work my core. So I'm trying to work that core in there, or I'll build in like, rehabby stuff, face pulls, pull aparts, you know, Randy McKinney's or Cuban presses or winning presses, anything that's going to like make you bulletproof. So I'll filter that in. Like yesterday when I was doing my upper body, I like to just spike my heart rate. So I want to build in conditioning. So I'll go do a sled push, sled drag, and then jump on an echo bike and crank out a quarter mile as fast as I can just to spike my heart rate to 170 plus, then get it back down to go do the lift. So it's like I'm always trying to do some type of conditioning, and that's for me. I mean, I don't make everyone do that, but it's like for me, it's like I've got a limited amount of time to train, so I've just got to get it done. Like the days I train during the week, I get in here at like 6 o'clock, and then I train, and I've got clients from like 9 till 6. So just you're in the same building for 12 hours. So now the days I don't train, I'm in here. I usually get here about eight, and I'm usually here till like 7 or so. Then I come in on the weekends and work. So it's just when I'm training, I'm just trying to get as much done in that period of time as I can. Now I do a lot of intra workout nutrition, so I will use like a cyclic dextrin and like an essential amino acids just to keep fuel, and then I'll keep Rice Krispie treats for like right when I want to spike my blood sugar. So I actually do a lot of this is it's a glucose test. So I poke my finger, see where my glucose is at. So I do a lot of that. I learned that from Nathan Payton, who's my nutrition coach, and I'm doing a mentorship with Nathan this year. I mean, he's incredibly intelligent when it comes to just understanding how to manage insulin and manage how insulin then manages and with cortisol response to exercise. So I've learned so much from him, and I'm trying to implement that into my training and my coaching, because I think that is it's important. So I just look at stuff like that as, whether it's the auxiliary work, whether it's intra-workout nutrition, is like, what's going to get you farther? Can you eat enough to train? Yeah, you can probably eat enough to train, but like now you're doing a strongman training session, but it takes 3 freaking hours because you're doing so much practice. You're practicing an event, so you just need fuel. Can you keep that fuel up? So like I'll eat a big meal the night before, like he, Nathan would call it a cheat meal. So I'd have a cheat meal the night before, so it's a little extra food, a little extra carbs, whatever. Then I'll have a big meal in the morning, and that's where then, like Rice Krispie treat, like I'll test my blood glucose. If it goes under 100, I pop a Rice Krispie treat in. So I test that blood glucose throughout the workout, and then I want to, it's my big set, my heavy set, my max effort set. 20 minutes before I slam up Rice Krispie treats, 20 grams of carbs, but it like spikes my insulin up there. My insulin or my blood glucose is at a good height. Get that for me, that's like 125 to about 140. As long as I stay in there, I perform optimally. If I start dipping below that, I don't. So, so like if you look at like well, I mean, Martins is Nathan's client. So he did the Wheel of Pain at the Arnold's, and his blood glucose was like 140. After the event, 90 seconds later, it's plummeted down to like 40. Okay.
Wow.
How does that shit even happen? So like this year I'm with Nick at the USS Pro International, and he did an event, and his blood glucose was 126, and it was a max effort deadlift. He did 3 pulls. After that deadlift, he went from 126 down to 86 inside 15 minutes. So we respiked his blood glucose, got him under control. He was fine. But then it allows you to perform bad all day. And I think that's what I'm happening. When people get to meets, they just don't perform well because they're not fueled well. And they think like, dude, I'm gonna eat a 72-ounce steak and a baked potato. It's like that would be a recovery meal. That's not a pre-workout meal. That's not your best thing. So what are you having your athletes eat? And I think that's super important for the ultimate performance. So just learning a lot of that from Nathan Payton, and Nathan's he's actually at the Olympia this weekend. He'll be talking about that at the Olympia for strength athletes. And you got to think, I mean, he's got Tom and Brian and Martins and all these guys who have won the big titles under his tutelage, and there's a reason why. So I spent $5,000 on him as a coach last year, and I came into Masters World Strongest Man. I was the biggest I'd ever been. I had the most lean body mass. Now, subsequently, this year, I've still got the biggest lean body mass. Not again, you lose strength as you age, but my lean body mass is big because I've really learned to manipulate the nutrition better. And my body composition is about, I mean, at almost 280, I'm like 18% body fat. So you can still see my abs, you can see some striations and stuff. So, I know I cut down, I'm gonna look a little better. So it just becomes one that just understanding that I'm eating for performance, not to look good naked on the beach. That might be nice too, but I could really care less. I mean, I've had abs and I didn't make any more money, and I didn't get any more sex. So I was like, abs are overrated. Or what would JF say? Uh, abs. That just means you don't eat enough, which I think is funny. Yeah. So
Um, I see all these videos of Clint doing like putting a suit on and then putting freaking like bands in there and like chains and all this crazy freaking stuff. Does he make you do that stuff too if he's doing your programming?
no, it's pretty steadfast. He does a lot. I do a lot of that, probably more myself than he does. Um, Again, when and it's very consultative and collaborative with Clint. Um,
Oh,
Here's
okay.
what you should do, and I'm like, okay, I don't like that. Okay, well, what do you want to do? Then this works for me because I know my body. Now the
Yeah.
thing is like we collaborate back and forth, and I like it. And Clint is just he's a good friend, and there's a lot of respect there, and he's taught me a lot of stuff, and I think vice versa. We kind of go back and forth. Um, I coach differently than he does. I like he writes everything out. It's more on a Word doc. I put everything in Train Heroic, so and then I put notes in Train Heroic, so it becomes more electronic. So then the client can see it. So I think we coach differently, but very similar. I don't think he's tied in super hard into conjugate, even though he does understand it. He does a lot of the principles. We do a lot of different stuff. So, I think the beauty of what Clint does is he looks at stuff and comes up with a different way of doing it. And then we try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's stuff that we've done that I love and I'm going to continue. I will always do. And there's stuff that I didn't really care for that. It didn't really work for me. But I think that's the beauty. How many times have I done that same stuff? So I think it just becomes how we look at it together and work together to create a plan that's going to really help me. And then I learn from that and I can use that in other aspects of training, whether it's with myself or whether it's with my other clients. So there's a lot of collaboration there. So I think that's what makes it nice. I don't really I could come in the gym and not think about anything, just look at my program and do it. I tend to ask a lot of questions. So, I think that's, and I want my clients to ask questions. I want you to understand why. Like, if a good coach should tell you why. I mean, if I do my job really in 12 to 16 weeks, I can write all the great program. I've taught you what you know. I'm just there for the accountability. I'm there so you don't have to think. Like my two coaches that trained this morning, they're on my staff. Like, the best part of having someone write your program is not have to think about your program, just follow it. You know, if you got to constantly think about what you're doing, are you really focused on training as hard as you possibly can? And I think that's why I just eventually like, yeah, I've got a lot of education. I'm a good coach. I coach for a living, but are you, what's the old saying? If you're your own client, wait, I can't remember how it's actually said to me. If you're your own client, you've got an idiot for a client. Basically meaning that I'm an idiot if I'm coaching myself. So like I just started, I hired someone else. And there's some other great people out there. To be honest with you, like I buy programs. I just buy other people's shit just to see what it's like. I mean, Zach Evanesh had his book come out today, and it came up on my feed, and I just clicked on it, and it's like the underground strength manual encyclopedia or whatever. I just bought it. It was $27. It's going to go on a shelf of all my other books, but I'm going to read it. And you know what? If I spent $27 and I get only one thing out of it, it was worth it. Now at that same time, will I buy programming from other people? Yeah, I'll buy programming from other people for one simple reason. I want to see how they do it. Maybe they got a better idea of how to do it. Maybe they're doing something better than I am, and I can learn. And that's I think the constant. It's a it, I look at it. It's a quest. You know, what's my quest? I'm a big Stephen King fan. So like, if you've ever read The Dark Tower, so people are like, what is it? I say I'm on a quest for my Dark Tower that I will never relent. Which the main character in that book, his name's Roland, and there's another character in the book that was he trained all the young knights, and his name was Court. And I laugh. I say I'm kind of somewhere between Court and Roland now. And my guys are like, well, you got all the gray hair here, so now you're definitely more like Roland. But I look like this quest for strength. I will chase this my entire life, and I know I will, and there will be no relenting because there's something to learn. Will I get better? I can be a better coach. I'll never be a better strongman than I was in the past because I'm not young anymore. I can be the best strongman I can be at 55. And that's the only thing I really care about. Um, but I think the cool thing with all that, how much can you learn? How much better can you get? Um, how much can you help other people? I don't know. I want to keep doing it. I want to do it as long as I can. So like my fiance goes, "What if you won the lottery today? Would you quit working?" I go, "No."
No
She
way,
goes, "You
huh?
really?" She goes, "You really wouldn't, would you?" I go, "Nope. I'd take more vacations and I'd have a bunch of dogs. And I wouldn't do anything different. I couldn't imagine not doing what I do, and that's helping people. And I think when you finally figure out what you were born to do, like I got lucky when I bought into the Parisi Speed School franchise in 2005. Like I finally found what I was meant to do, and it's coach. Now I coach kids, I coach adults, and I coach strongman. And like financially speaking, I'm not hurting for anything. I can make the kind of money I want to make, but I know that at the end of the day, like I'm making a difference, and I think that's the most important thing. That if you can make a difference in this world, then do it. And if you don't, and you God gave you a talent, and you truly don't use that talent to help the world, I think that's true sin. That's a sin. If you're not using the talents God gave you to make the world a better place, that's a sin. You know, I mean, yeah, having impure thoughts, that's a sin. Saying certain things, those are sins. But like the biggest in my and again, this again, my personal opinion. If you were gifted with something and you don't use it to make the world a better place or to glorify God, that's a biggest sin in my book. And that's why I look at what do I do every day? I get to wear pajamas every day. I don't go to work. I get to help people. And I don't think there's a greater calling than to do that. And this is my ministry per se. This is what I do for a living every day. So that's what makes it fun.
Let me ask you just like a specific question, as a coach, just for like an example. I think this is a common thing. So, like, let's say you have an athlete that when they squat or when they deadlift, their butt pops up and their back
Okay.
takes over the lift. How do
Okay.
you correct that? What would you do with somebody like that?
See, there's so much to unpack there. That's every individual is a little bit different. Is it femur length? Is it shin length? Is it ankle mobility? Is it hip mobility? Is it upper back thoracic mobility? There's so much to unpack there. You'd have to actually every person would have to look at that and see, okay, let's break it down where you're failing. What's the torso length? I mean, so everyone's a little bit different. So it's kind of a question. It's like it's hard to answer that question because every person's different. I mean, if I've got a 6'5" lifter as opposed to a 5'6" lifter, you know, Andy Cialdini's one of our kids. He's 19 years old. He's 165 pounds. He just pulled 200 kilos for a double on a sumo deadlift. He's never sumo deadlifted until 3 weeks ago. He's always conventional or trap bar. But he's like, I keep looking at him like, dude, you need to do a powerlifting meet. Um, you need to do a powerlifting meet because I think you'd be really good at it. So, like, I shot his form over to Eddie, and Eddie's like, well, just have him settle into the bar a little bit more, engage his lats touch more, get a little bit more upright, get that sternum up. I'm like, okay. And that was 2 weeks ago. He pulled 410 for a double. Then 2 weeks later, he pulls 440 for a double. Okay. Why did he pull? His technique was better, but it was that individual. And I thought that's what I thought, but I just want to ask Ed anyways. So every athlete's a little bit different. Every situation is a little bit different. So what is that you need? I think it just really comes down to individually, like, well, let's look at it. Now I think most people have a woefully weak upper back. So they tend to round to their thoracic spine. If they're shooting their butt out, is that their core? Are they able to activate their core? What lift are we talking? Is it a deadlift? Is it a squat? Is it a sumo? So I mean, all those have different. Are you a narrow stance squatter? Are you a wide stance squatter? If you're west side, you're probably a wide stance squatter. So you're shortening the stroke so you can get a bigger squat. And that requires something different. A strongman squat, I think, is a little bit different than a powerlifting squat. I like a more of an athletic position for the squat. But again, until you actually see it, it's hard to sit here and say, is that is that in the ankle? Is it in the knees? Is it the hips? There's a lot of stuff going on there. So hard to diagnose that without actually seeing it.
So there's like a lot more questions, and it's very, like you said, individualized.
It's just so individualized. I can't give a. Let's put this way. I always say this: if anyone who can give a blanket statement on that is full of shit because they don't see the athlete. I can have 100 different athletes with 100 that anthropomorphically are so different that I can't give the same. Now, there's basic stuff. All right, well, set your squat up. I mean, how do I figure what's the optimal squat width? I don't know. I was always taught put a person in a chin up station. They're hanging there. Let them drop wherever they catch themselves. That's their natural squat position. Okay, because you're going to naturally catch yourself in the most advantageous position. So that's all we do. No one's got this asininely wide squat. Now, why would I widen out? For a powerlifting? Yeah. If I'm training an athlete, I'm gonna look at that. Okay. Think with your bench. Where should your hands be? Do I need this super wide bench, or should I be in here more narrow? My thumb is over my shoulder. What am I trying? Am I more a tricep heavy bencher? Am I a pec heavy bencher? Do I have a big back? I mean, there's so much stuff to sit there and what's the most important? Every lifter is different. You know, as far as the overhead press, what's the best grip for the overhead press? Where should you be wider? Some Olympic lifters like that wider. They clean it and they widen out just a little bit more and they get a better press. Is that best for strongman? Are you an Olympic lifter? If you're an Olympic lifter, that might be the form for you. Like Scott Baki was a high level pro, great Olympic lifter, split jerk everything. He had that technique down. Jesse Morundi was another one like that. Were they the best pressers? They were really good pressers. Were they the best? Not necessarily the best, but they're really good. Could Brian Schoenfeld have learned how to jerk? No, he was a power presser and he was huge. And he didn't have to because he beat everyone's ass with his power. But everyone's different. So I don't think you can have a blanket statement on any of those. What's right, what's wrong. I think it's what's right for that athlete that's in front of you. If you've got an athlete like Doug R., one of my former training partners, 6'8", 450 pounds, man. Dude had a wingspan of like 88 inches. It was ridiculous. Like he could literally, like you're playing offensive line, he would put his hand out and he would touch your chest, and you're like, this is where you're hitting his arm. He's already in your breastplate before you can do anything. But he was also, we built him up to a 600-pound bencher. But again, the guy's 450 pounds, so he's 450 pounds benching 600. So it's like a 250-pound guy benching 400. When you're sitting there thinking, is it really that impressive? It's 600 pounds, dude. I couldn't do it. But then again, he could only squat 700 pounds. But he had a really, really, really long torso, so his was more like a good morning. Then his deadlift was okay. But so every athlete's a little bit different. I know that's kind of cheating a question, but
hey, it makes sense. I mean, it's just the truth, man. It's crazy because Cody, he's like that. He's really long. He has a long torso, but somehow he just squats perfectly straight upright. Like it doesn't even make sense. Yeah, when I watch him, I'm like, how does he do that? It's crazy.
Hey, I've got kids walking in the building now, so I've got to roll out. I will say this, and it takes a problem because we went almost 2 hours. It'll take a while, then I'll just email it to you.
Okay. Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, Chad.
No, dude, if you want to come up with a list of questions and like shoot them to me, then I can pre-program some answers. And if you want to do that, that's fine. I think that allows me to answer the questions you want. I don't know. We kind of went on a lot of different tangents. So
yeah,
it's usually me. Good. Stuck in an office. I don't talk to people very often, but when I do, like I kind of doing stuff like this is fun for me because it's getting information out in front of people. So
yeah, we'll do it again then. I'll come up with a list of questions and then we'll just do it again.